So at the end of every evidence session, the committee normally meet afterwards and do a debrief about what they've heard and about some of the main kind of things that are jumping out from them about what the witnesses have said. So we then use that and feed that directly into the report. The main thing really from the committee perspective there is adding value to the audit report. So we've already had what the National Audit Officer said, then we take evidence on it, and what more can the committee say and what recommendations can we make. So then that gets fed into the drafting process. The committee normally do around 8 recommendations for each report, sometimes more, sometimes less. The main thing with the number is keeping it as kind of concise as possible and not having minor trivial recommendations that we don't really need, because the government needs to respond to all of them and we want to keep them as focused as possible. In terms of publicising it, our media officer normally gathers support from kind of interested media outlets. We normally send embargoes to the press a day or 2 days before, and we also get members who have worked particularly on that inquiry to promote it further. In terms of monitoring the recommendations, we've got a tracking process, a spreadsheet that we log everything in. The government respond via the Treasury minute process. So that means every department feeds in and they have to respond to every recommendation. They have to say whether they agree or disagree with it, and also how they're going to implement it if they agree. They feed that into the Treasury, then the Treasury report back to us, and that comes in batches of 5 reports or so. So we take that, and the main thing, we get advice from the National Audit Office on that and we discuss it with them. And if a recommendation is not good enough, the committee will then discuss that amongst themselves, and the mechanisms we have for that are we might write to the department and ask for a better response, or if it's particularly bad we might call them back and hold them to account for what they've said. With drafting good recommendations, there's probably 4 main things. So the first thing is drafting it in a clear and concise way, so that there's no room for kind of departments replying outside the scope of the recommendation. The second thing is having a quantifiable outcome. So what exactly do you want to achieve, particularly based on the evidence that we received. The third thing is having clear steps. So for example, not just investigate this, but how they're going to investigate it, because again that kind of focuses the department. And the other thing the fourth thing that we try and do as well is making it freestanding, so making it make sense on its own. So if we quote it in a future evidence session, or if we want to kind of check back in with the department, we don't have to go through the whole report. It makes sense on its own.